Go on, Stacey.
Thanks so much, Jen. So, like Jen said, my name is Stacey Villalobos, and I'm a staff attorney at Legal Aid at Work, which is a workers' rights legal nonprofit. And as part of that work, I represent job seekers with records who are looking for work but discriminated against because of that. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today. I grew up in the 909 in the IE, so I'm excited to be here virtually with you all. And also the issue of employment and criminal records is very personal. I've had several uncles and cousins who've been impacted by that and then had trouble finding work after. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to be talking about the California Fair Chance Act, sometimes also called Ban the Box or AB 1008. And before we sort of jump into what the law says, I want to recognize that the law is here as a result of years and years of organizing by directly impacted folks and their family members, led by All of Us or None, which is a group of directly impacted folks and their family members who, after coming home, looked around and said, we've ostensibly paid our debt to society, yet our criminal record continues to impact our life chances, continues to impact our opportunities. We can't get jobs because of our records, and that's unfair. So they made it illegal too, because of years of community organizing and work. And so I just want to recognize that there's power in the community, and there's power in standing up for your rights and saying, hey, maybe it's not my right, but it should be my right. So let's jump in. So the Fair Chance Act became effective in 2018, and it has three parts, which we're going to talk about in detail. The first part we're calling Ban the Box. The second part is the fair chance process. And the third part is that it creates certain categories of off-limits criminal history information. And we're going to talk about all of these parts in detail, but I just want to let you know, you don't have to memorize everything that we're going to talk about, right? You'll have the recording, you'll have the resources like the toolkit and a fact sheet that you can refer to. But if you just remember that the law has three different parts and remember what those parts are, then I think that will be a success, right? Because then you'll know what to look for when you're actually going through the process. So the first part is ban the box. And this part really applies at the application and at the interview stage. So right now in California, most employers are not allowed to ask about your conviction history on a job application or an interview or run a background check before they actually offer you a job. And I know that a lot of people are still seeing this happen, right? But all of these different questions that are on the slide for most employers shouldn't be on the application anymore. So have you ever been convicted of a criminal offense? Check the box, yes or no. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Yes or no. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been arrested? For most employers right now, even though we're still seeing these questions on applications, I'm sure you are too, they're not allowed to ask this. They first have to look at your qualifications and decide, do I want to hire this person based on their qualifications? And then only after that are they allowed to ask about your criminal history. And so we've banned the box, and that we've banned the questions about criminal history before actually giving someone a job. And so now we're going to jump into our first pop quiz, and it's a surprise. So it's a pop quiz. I'm going to go ahead and read the question, read the answers, and then I'm going to count to 3 and ask you to put in the chat A, B, C, or D, what you think the right answer is. So the question is, when can a potential employer ask about a criminal record? Is it A, before giving someone an application, B, on the application, C, during the interview, or D, after offering someone a job? I see folks are already starting to enter their answers. No need for me to count to 3. We're seeing a lot of Ds. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that's the right answer. You all are doing great so far. 100% looks like on our first quiz. So let's move right along to the second part of the law, fair chance process. And so, like I said earlier, right, they're not allowed to ask about criminal history. Most employers aren't allowed to ask about criminal history before giving you a job offer. But then after the job offer, there are certain things they have to do. There's a process they have to follow once they get your criminal history information. So once they get your criminal history information, they need to do an individual evaluation. So they have to look at you as an individual and evaluate 2 things. 1, whether your specific convictions are directly related to your job duties, and 2, how much time has passed since the convictions. So Katie, my coworker, loves to use the example, right, of if you were robbing banks 6 months ago and you're applying to work as a bank teller, you're going to have a pretty hard time convincing the employer, right, to hire you, or that your criminal record shouldn't impact your ability to work there. But if you were robbing banks 6 months ago and you're applying to work as an engineer, or you're applying to work as a stalker at a grocery store, right? Then there's not that connection, that direct relationship between your job duties, even though it's only also been 6 months. So if the employer decides based on those two factors that they want to take back your job offer, then they have to first give you an initial written notification. And in that initial written notification, they have to identify the specific convictions they have a problem with. So they can't just say, Stacy, I saw your background check. Ooh, you've been busy. Like, I'm not going to hire you with that background check. They have to say, Stacy, your 2014 conviction for burglary is the issue, or your 2017 conviction for possession of narcotics is the issue. And with that notification, they also have to give you a copy of the background check that they ran, or how they got that information. And then you have this opportunity to respond. So we see it in orange, right? Because this is where you sort of engage with the process. And this is your opportunity to try to change the employer's mind and try to convince them that they think what they think is an issue actually isn't an issue. And you have to be given a minimum of 5 business days to respond. And your response can include evidence of background check errors, so things that are wrong in your background check, rehabilitation evidence, so things that you've changed in your life, things that you've done to make yourself a better employee, or potentially a better employee to an employer, or circumstances of the crime of your current life that might mitigate what happened and sort of explain what happened or explain what's happening now, that would make you a good employee. And Katie's going to talk to us about that in detail in the second part of the presentation. And then once the employer gets that response, they have to do a re-evaluation. And it's important to respond, right? Because if you don't respond, then that's the end of the process. They don't have to do a re-evaluation. They're already convinced there's nothing to change their mind. But if you do respond, then they have to do a re-evaluation and consider that new information that you submitted, and then re-evaluate whether your convictions still justify not hiring you. And then the final step of the process, whether you submit a response or not, they have to give you a final written notification informing you of their final decision if they decide to revoke your job offer, and of your right to file a complaint with a government agency about their decision if they say, we're not going to hire you. So here, we wanted to show you a sample of what these could look like. The preliminary notice letter, they don't always look like this. In fact, sometimes employers just ghost, right? They ghost my clients. When they get the background check results, then my clients try calling them, emailing them, and then they just never hear back. But what the employer is supposed to do is give you a letter that looks something like this. So it says, right, you have 5 business days from the receipt of the letter to respond. The information that you respond with can include something challenging the accuracy of the criminal history, showing rehabilitation or mitigation or both, and that the company will review it before making a final decision. And then they give some examples, right, of additional information that you can provide. Okay, so that's the process. Moving right along, we have now our off-limits information, the third and final part of the Fair Chance Act. So this is certain types of criminal history information that employers can't ask for and can't use. If they accidentally get it, if there is an error on your background check and they somehow accidentally get it, they still can't use it in making a decision about your employment. And so those are arrests that did not result in convictions, except if the case is currently open, arrested for something but weren't charged or weren't convicted, and that case is now closed, they can't use that. Pretrial or post-trial diversion programs, which oftentimes come up in like DUI or drug cases, right, where you have this opportunity to participate in a diversion program that means you don't get a conviction, or after you get the conviction, it gets changed. The next category of things are things that are related to record clearing or expungement or clean slate. We have a lot of different words for it. But judicially dismissed convictions, which are also called expunged convictions sometimes, or if you've gotten a certificate of rehabilitation related to your conviction. So that's where you've actually filed with the court and gotten it. It's post-conviction, right? After your conviction, you've gotten through this court process to get these different types of record clearing remedies. If you've gotten your conviction judicially sealed, or if you've gotten a pardon from either the governor or the president. If it has anything to do with juvenile court, if you were under the jurisdiction of the juvenile court when you got your record, then they can't use that. and then any minor marijuana related convictions that are older than 2 years. Okay, so all those different categories are types of information that employers can't use when making a decision about your employment. And the ones in the middle related to clean slate or record clearing are really good reasons to go through clean slate processes, so that then that criminal history information can't be used by an employer. So we have another pop quiz now, and I'm gonna ask you again to put it in the chat. Can an employer run a background check on me? What do you all think? Yes, no, maybe? We have Maisha saying yes, Meryl, yes. A lot of yeses, okay. All right, anyone else think something different? Okay, great. So it is a yes, but it's a little bit of a trick question, right? Because it's only after a job offer, remember? Because we banned the box. So they can't run it up front, but then after they give you that job offer, they can run it. Okay, so now we have a second pop quiz. Can an employer ask me about past arrests? What do y'all think? 1, 2, 3. Put your answer in the chat. No, no. Okay. Unless convicted, says Kimberly. Great. Yeah, so that's right. It's another trick question, right? No, unless the case is currently open, right? If you're currently going through the criminal process and the case is still currently open, they can ask about that, because it might turn into a conviction, is the supposed theory behind that. But if it's already closed, then they can't ask you about that. So another one, can an employer ask me about dismissed convictions? And that's right, Mariel, only after hire, right? So that was, again, another trick question. Okay, so what do people think? Can an employer ask me about dismissed convictions? I'm seeing some no's start to trickle in. Okay, great. Yeah, no, and there's no trick to that one, right? There's no exceptions like there were in the other one. Employers can't ask about dismissed convictions who are covered by the Fair Chance Act. So again, another really good reason to go through record clearing processes. So here's just a summary, and this fact sheet, this Know Your Rights page, is available on Legal Aid at Work's website, which I'll put in the chat shortly. But it just sort of goes over all of those details of what we went over, right? So you don't have to memorize it again, but remember, ban the box, fair chance process, off limits information, and when they each happen: before the job offer, after the job offer, before and after the job offer. And Jennifer, excellent question. How does one respond if employers do ask that questions? We're going to get to that towards the end of the presentation, and we're actually going to have you all do a role play where we practice that specific scenario, because we know it comes up a lot. And we just wanted to go over 2 common violations of the Fair Chance Act. So one, which maybe we all know by this point, asking about convictions on job applications, right? Or at the interview. 2 is conducting a background check before a conditional offer of employment. So you can look at the date of the background check and whether that came before or after when you got like a conditional job offer letter, for instance. The third one is stating that no individuals with convictions will be hired on job announcements. So if they're posting it on Craigslist or some other job posting board or on their website, and they say no felonies or no convictions in the last 7 years. Right, and that's because they're not doing that individual evaluation that's required by the law. And then if they're considering off-limits information, like convictions that have been dismissed, and sometimes, Katie will talk more about this, but sometimes those show up and they don't show up as being dismissed, or the employer doesn't know how to read the background check and doesn't see that it's dismissed, and then they try to use that. Another common violation is the wrong process or no process at all, right? The ghosting that I referred to earlier, for telling applicants that the employer is taking back the job offer. Another violation is that the employer doesn't provide a copy of the background check or gives the applicant less than 5 business days to review and respond to the notice. And just to note that blanket bans like "we will not hire anyone with a felony record" are most likely illegal, and that's not only under the Fair Chance Act, but also under our employment discrimination laws. And with that, I'll turn it over to Katie.
I had to find my unmute button, sorry. So yes, navigating the fair chance process. Just, I guess, a little bit about me. Jen already introduced me. My name is Katie. I go by KD. Doing this type of work is definitely important to me. I'm formerly incarcerated. I have been impacted, by the ban of box laws before and after that they were on the books. And, so I'm just passionate about doing this work, and I take this work as a duty, to give back to my community. Navigating the fair chance process. We're going to go ahead and get into some of those examples Stacey talked about. So one of the most important things that, I'm going to say we, because I'm formerly incarcerated. One of the most important things that we can do right now is get ready for the fair chance process, and this is a great example of getting ready. You guys have already taken the first step by joining these type of presentations when you see them. Okay. Other things that we're going to look at and go into a little bit about today is the personal statement. You want to get ready by preparing your personal statement. You want to get ready by collecting letters of support. We're going to take a look at those. And you also want to get ready by gathering and also sort of understanding your criminal court documents. And I said sort of for a reason. We'll get into that later. Okay, so getting and understanding a copy of your records. One of the first things that you want to be out there doing is, yes, you want to be able to get a copy of your records. There's various different types of records out there, and there's various different ways. For the most part, you definitely want to go down to your county to get whatever it is, that you can get from your county. That's usually going to be your local rap sheet. I think a lot of us is familiar with the rap sheet. There is ways too that you can go ahead and, I guess you can fingerprint yourself, if you really that, if you got some know-how or something like that, you can do that stuff on your own. But for the most part, that's one of the most important reasons of taking advantage of a clean slate clinic is the fingerprint process. Background check. So remember, we also want to get, not only do we want to get our rap sheets and our criminal court documents, we also want to ask for copies of our background checks. And I really like to note that there's a difference, you know what I'm saying, between what the employer is going to be looking at when it comes to your rap sheet and your background. Okay. And so these background checks is more accurate of what the employer is going to be looking at. For most jobs, there is some jobs where they'll have access to other things, but for the most part, they're going to get access to that background check. And you ask for a copy, and you want to be looking for errors. Like one of the common violations, like Stacey said, is definitely going to be errors, misreporting cases, it shows up 2 and 3 times and all kind of different things. So you definitely want to ask for a copy of your background check. One of the main ways that you can get a copy of a background check in the state of California, it's free. And every time you fill out, when you authorize that company to run that background check, it's like those 2 or 3 boxes you check at the end. One of those boxes is for you to automatically receive a copy of the background check. So you'll get the background check really sometimes at the same time, if not maybe a few hours before the company get the background check. So that's one of the main direct ways to get a copy of your background check. Sorry if I dragged that one. Okay, and then we also talked about letters of support. Okay, this is really one of my favorites right here. Your letters of support, they can come from anywhere, really they can. Education, what are you doing? It's missing. Oh yeah, okay. We'll answer that question. What are you doing, right now? Are you taking high school classes, GED classes? Are you in college? Those are letters of support that you want to be gathering, certificates and stuff like that. Letters of recommendation. Again, the same teachers. You going to school, you going to GED, you want to get a letter from your teacher, employers. I don't care if you just asking your supervisor. I don't care if it's the shift lead. Okay, you can get a quick little letter of support from the shift lead. Your PO. Absolutely. I definitely stepped up to my PO to ask her for a recommendation letter when I was going through my clean slate process, which you can still turn around and turn in, to an employer as evidence of rehabilitation. Counselors from any type of rehab programs that we're going to talk about. Absolutely. You want to get a letter of recommendation or something from counselors, anyone. Okay. You can even ask your grandma, it can be something as simple as, it's lovely having Katie home. It really makes an impact in my life. That's a letter of support, okay? Proof of completion. Again, some of the programs, school, anger management classes, you volunteer service, substance abuse. Absolutely. I'm turning in everything that I can. I don't care what the certificate look like. Substance abuse folks, I don't care if you can get a letter of support from the person working the door. I don't care if that letter just said, "Hey, Katie is here every week at the meeting on time and she sit in the front." I'm asking for a letter of support. And another thing I want to land on too is the toolkit that has been provided has really good sample letters for some of this gathering. I know for me, when I was going through the process, it was really frustrating to get people to respond and write some letters. People busy. Hey, if you come in with a little sample letter, all you got to do is fill in, put your little name and date on there, bow, got it. So absolutely, anything else that you think that you feel like you can think of that will help assist you in, gathering letters of support for yourself. These are all things that you can be doing right now, ahead of time, in real time. And this right here is another one of my favorite pages. This just really kind of show the various different certificates out there. There's all kind of certificates. Like I said earlier, I don't care what it is that I'm doing, as long as it's showing some proof that I'm showing up on time, I'm signing in on time, I'm here, I completed the program, I was picking up trash in the neighborhood, the anger management group. You see the Black Worker Center certificate, ready to work boot camp. Those are excellent certificates that you definitely want to have in your bag when you're getting ready to prepare for the process. Sorry if I dragged those a little bit. The personal statement. This is really important to me and to everybody else. I think this is one of the most, I mean, they're all three equally important, but this really is one of the most important pieces. This is, your chance to step up and speak up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times that background check and that rap sheet, it looks daunting. It's just, it got you looking bad out here. So this is your opportunity to really step up, to speak up for yourself. In this little template, right here really just gives you the basics and the guts to how to formulate a personal statement. It could be a little intimidating. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know how to talk about some of that stuff. And so this template is great. Discuss the conviction, what, when, take responsibility. You definitely want to talk about your accomplishments. I would even spend more time talking about my accomplishments, social and community ties, your employment history, educational attainments. And absolutely, you want to close with relatable skills, okay? Share community and relevant skills, commitment to work, family, etc. You want to close with that stuff because that shows anybody, that employer, whether you're going for the clean slate process, because these letters are interchangeable. Personal strengths. Talk about your personal strengths, okay? You're a good worker, you show up on time, you're a good candidate because you always want to end it with how you're such a good candidate because of all these great qualities that you just talked about. And again, this template, and they have some sample letters as well. This great stuff is definitely in the toolkit. Here is another quick snapshot from a sample letter from real clients. We're not going to read the whole thing, but go ahead, just take a couple of seconds to look at it. I really like how this person really just honed in on it. From the time I was 18 until 25, I struggled with drug addiction. And since then, I've successfully completed the program. I'm proud to say that I have not used drugs for 5 years, putting some separation between that life. And then I obtained my high school diploma, and I now volunteer with an organization that mentors young people. That's a commitment to continue in this work. And here's another great example. Again, we're not going to read the whole thing, but I just love how this person immediately went into how during my incarceration, I realized how my actions hurt other people. And I learned how to overcome the urge for instant gratification. That person immediately went into personal responsibility. And then they talked about dedicating time to reflection, self-improvement, and ultimately discovering a passion for learning. Okay. These are great examples of how you can just get an idea how to start your sample letters. Your personal statements. And again, this stuff is in the toolkit. I hope those are helpful as well. And sorry for if I'm moving a little fast, you all. I apologize. Again, here is some sample letters in a toolkit that, I mentioned a little bit earlier. A sample letter from your probation or parole officer. They might be busy. You know how parole and probation officers, they're really not all that friendly a lot of times. They're probably overworked and overpaid. They not underpaid, they make good money. So if you come with a little sample letter, hey, how you doing? I got this little sample letter. For all you can do is just fill in your little name and title and stuff like that. That says a lot, you know what I'm saying, about you. We got some other sample letters to look at. Here is one from a healthcare provider. Same thing. Healthcare providers are probably really overworked and underpaid. They got a big caseload. You know what I'm saying? Here is a sample letter you can take to them. It's you know what I'm saying, ready made. All they got to do is fill in the blanks. I love this toolkit. I'm serious. This is really, Stacy really led the work on this toolkit. I'm serious, y'all. And just here's another sample letter from, service providers, job trainings, educations, volunteers. This is another one you can take to all these different programs that that you're affiliated with, whether it's a CEO program, whether it's, again, a Black Worker Center boot camp. This is a sample letter that, for the most part, can fit anybody. And this is where you definitely want to be trying to get the bulk of your sample letters at. The bulk of your letters from.
And I just want to give a shout out to all the service providers on the training, which I think there are a good amount of you all. You all can write these letters, right? So you all can write these letters for the people that you work with. And you can use this one, probably would be the best fit for you, right? As a sample.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Stacey. And I want to give a shout out to the service providers as well. We really need and appreciate you guys. When I was out looking for work, I heavily relied on service providers. So be a good service provider. And I think I pass it to you right here, Stacey, or is this still me?
Still you.
Okay. Standing up for your rights. Okay, folks, prepare. Again, you guys are doing this stuff right now. You guys are on here learning about this. Go through those clean slate programs. Sometimes I know they might drag a little long. It might take a little while to get stuff together. That stuff really makes a difference. Document what's happening. Okay, this is how you prepare to stand up for your rights. You want to save text messages, emails from some of these employers that you get, screenshot your application, whatever it is that you think you can do to keep some type of documentation on some of the correspondence that you get with a lot of these companies. Because I know right now it's a lot of tech. They send in emails, text. A lot of this stuff is mainly going to be online right now. But still, if you need to journal and take notes, that's appropriate too. Responding to the employer. So we talked about that in a part of the fair chance process when Stacey talked about, your chance to respond. And then we went over the things that you could respond with. It's important to know your rights and your records, okay? Your letters of support, your personal statements. You want to respond to that pre-adverse action notice, okay? And again, maybe sometimes you do get ghosted. In my experience, I had several experiences. One experience, I didn't even know what the letter was. So you want to be on the lookout for the letter. And then the second experience, yes, I got ghosted. I never even had a chance to respond. Filing a complaint with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing Council, or whatever it is the local agency is in your, local township, if for the folks that's in those unincorporated areas. It's very important that you file and follow through with this process, okay? Stand up for your rights. The folks at All of Us are None built that into the process, okay? We want you to know that there is an agency out here that's working for you. It may not come with instant gratification, but there is some benefits of standing up for your rights, knowing that you're following a process, knowing sometimes you can get that job back. Sometimes it can end in, some financial payments out to you. Stacey, we'll mention more about that a little bit, but definitely you want to stand up for your rights. It's a part of the law. And turn to your community, okay? You want to turn to your All of Us Are None community. You guys are already doing a good job turning into your Inland Empire Fan Chance Coalition, which Jen and them has going. These are excellent resources and folks that have your back. You turn to your community to organize around this. You don't know how many people have been denied by that same employer in that little town. Turn to your community. That's how you stand up for your rights.
Katie. And I just want to take a few minutes to talk about what filing with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing looks like. And the Department of Fair Employment and Housing is a California government agency that is in charge of enforcing our civil rights laws and our employment discrimination and our housing discrimination laws. And they're the ones who are in charge of enforcing the Fair Chance Act. And like Katie said, it can be a process that is sometimes really easy or sometimes that takes a while. But filing the actual charge is relatively simple. You'll see there's an 11-page intake that I've just excerpted a couple pages from here, but only 3 or 4 pages of those are actually required, mandatory. The rest of it is sort of optional, like demographic information that they collect. And on the left side, you'll see that it asks for complainant information, which is just who the job seeker, or notably too, as a service provider or as a membership organization, you can also file these. So for instance, the Inland Empire Fair Chance Coalition has been filing these on behalf of its members. So if you're sort of feeling like, I need to find another job, I can't begin this process right now. One is that you have time, right? You have 3 years to file it, so you can find another job and then file. Or 2, you can send it to the Inland Empire Fair Chance Coalition, and then they can file something on your behalf that you don't necessarily need to be involved with if you don't want to be involved with. And that can work really well too for like ban the box violations, right? When it's just, you take a picture of the application, it has it on there, you send it to that email, that'll be at the end of the presentation. And then that's basically all we need to be able to prove up that the employer violated the law, right? So anyways, it asks for the basic information about the complainant, which is the job seeker or the organization that's filing the complaint, that's complaining, complainant. The respondent is the employer, so the company their basic information. And then it asks you whether you have a lawyer. You don't need a lawyer to participate. And it asks you a few questions about the date of when it happened. And then it just asks you to check a box. That's literally all you have to do. Which violation was it? Check the box here. And then there's an opportunity if you want to include a sort of narrative story about what happened to you, but all of that is optional, and then you have to sign it. So it can be pretty simple to go ahead and file these, and you can file them online. And we'll have the contact information at the end of the presentation of the website where you do that, or you can download this form, which is also at the end of the toolkit with more sort of specific explanations of how to fill out each different portion. And then you can mail it in, or you can also call and then file over the phone. And as Katie was sort of getting to, there are some potential benefits of filing with the DFEH. There's sort of the non-tangible on the left side, standing up for your rights, right? Holding employers accountable, sometimes just getting an explanation, right? Sometimes my clients just say, I just want to know why they rejected me. And this process can help them force the employer to give them an explanation of why, instead of just ghosting people. But then the more tangible benefits, right, that Katie referenced, are actually getting the job back, right? So I've had clients who have gone to work with the employer who initially denied them and said, we're not going to hire you because of your criminal record. I've had other clients who've gotten back pay, meaning pay for the amount of time that they should have been working but weren't because the employer violated their rights, or other monetary compensation. You can also change the practice at the company, right? So that the company doesn't do this to anyone else that comes after you. And then it can also result in training at the company for the people who violated your rights, right? So the HR folks or other people who are involved in the background check process are retrained on what they're supposed to do to comply with the law. And with that, I'll turn it back to Katie for the role play.
Okay, so we have 2 role plays. You guys will be invited to a room. We will have 2 different role plays, and the one role play is going to be responding to the interactive process. If you are in an interview and you get that illegal question, and the second role play is going to be responding to, that response, that pre-adverse action notice that you supposedly get if you don't get ghosted. And we will have a chance to practice responding to that. So you all will be invited to a breakout room, and you join your breakout room. Whichever room you go in, you'll be in, either one of those. And then after the we'll be there about 10 minutes, I guess, about 10 minutes. If shorter, we'll take that too. And we'll come back and we'll debrief, and we'll get a chance to share out while we're in the role play room, we hope for some volunteers or some participants, okay? So we're gonna ask for your participation. We want this to be interactive. We want this to be fun. We want this to be, all inclusive, okay? Let me see. Okay, I talked about the 2 role plays. You guys are gonna get invited. We'll come back to a debrief. Go ahead, Jen.
Invited, and I put in the chat the role play topics, which hopefully you can see still when we get in the rooms, but we can run through them with you. So we should probably go.
All right, let's go.
Hello. Group, what are we? I think we're room 2. Hello, room 2. We'll wait for folks to trickle in, but I think we only maybe are expecting one more person. Welcome. So I'm hoping that I can get one of you to maybe help us do this role play. So let me kind of break down the role play for you, and then we'll give it a shot with one or two of us who can give this a try. So the idea of this role play is we're trying to figure out how we respond when an employer is not following the law early in the process. So you're at a job interview as a forklift operator. The interview is going great. You think this, hey, welcome, Ethel. I think most of us are here now. So I'm going to kind of walk us through this role play, and then I'm going to ask for which of you is going to volunteer to role play this. So hopefully one or two of you are willing to step into the circle and help us try out some strategies. So here's our story. We're at an interview for a forklift operator job. You feel like the interview is going great. This job is yours. You're sure you're like the best candidate. And then the manager says, is there anything going to come back on your background check I should be concerned about? Turns out you have a 2014 conviction for robbery and possession of narcotics. What are you going to say in response, right? And what can you do after the interview? So who is willing to kind of step into this space and do a little role play with us?
I'll help you.
All right. Great. So I asked the question. So Tracy, right?
Yes.
Okay, Tracy. Is anything going to come back on your background check I should be worried about?
There might be something on there that might be concerned, but let me tell you right now, I have done, since that conviction, things have changed in my life. And as you see here before me, everything has been going good. And you got to see who I am as an individual and how I answered your questions. And I'm hoping that that will weigh out what you will see on my background. However, since that time, I have, been in different type of groups. I went to anger management. I have been in parenting classes. Me and my family are doing well. We're in a good state right now. Actively seeking work because I need to provide for my family, and I'm hoping that this job is going to help me for that. Yeah, basically that's it.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me, Tracy. Okay, so let's pause for a second. Let's see, does anybody else want to try out, because there's no easy way to do this, right? Anybody else want to try out a different strategy you might take? Anna, Luz, Pedro, Ethel, anyone want to try?
You're not supposed to ask.
Okay, so it's true, right? The employer is violating the law. So true enough. So what? But I've done it, right? I'm violating the law, but I maybe don't know it. Maybe I don't care. Who knows? So what would you say to me if that's the strategy you want to take? What would you say?
I'm just going to say that you're not supposed to ask unless you offer me a job, then we can talk.
Okay, right. Then we can have the conversation.
Yeah, then we have the conversation after you offer me the job.
Okay. That's also right. So that is a strategy you could take too. Anna, Pedro, or Luz, anything you might want to add to either of those strategies that you think might make them even more effective?
Oh, I would say that really focus on the skills and abilities. It seems like that person has a lot of experience, and that maybe with your skills and abilities you can overcome the fact that a couple years back you had the robbery in possession, and of course, if you didn't mention that you went through different programs and you have rehabilitated yourself, it shouldn't be no problem anymore.
Right. Okay. Okay. Anna Luz, what do you think? Which strategy would you take? The sort of sort of disclose a little bit like Tracy did, or sort of, or be like, hey, you can't ask me that.
I think it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You can go.
Zoom, right? It just
Yeah.
happens all the time. I'm sorry. I think it would be a combination of both. It would be good to disclose that it's not permitted to ask that type of questions. However, because of I think it's different between like each different person, but I am a pretty open person. I would go ahead and say, although that question should not be asked, I think that we could discuss that information after you offer me the job, because you might see something. I don't know.
Yeah, Anna, what did you want to add?
I think Luz was pretty spot on. I was gonna say, while you're not supposed to necessarily discuss this before you offer a job, you might find something on there, but I am fully prepared to discuss that with you and maybe talk it through if you might have questions as to where I'm at now in my life compared to whenever that happened. I that would probably be what I would do.
Yeah, you could even say if you see something that's concerning to you, and that way you're not even completely disclosing. You're saying if there's anything that's concerning to you, then we can have that conversation. And then I think what Tracy did that was so great was, but then you do want to say, because here's why I am the best candidate for this job, right? And really kind of put that forward. I do think also with Ethel's sort of, as somebody like me, I like really care about this, like the law. I'm like, damn, you're violating the law. You can't ask me that question. It pisses me off. So I kind of often would be tempted to do Ethel's solution. And sometimes one way you could even say that is saying something like, hey, I just went to this training and you might want to know that actually California passed this Fair Chance Act, and it actually means we can't have this conversation until after I get the conditional offer. But at that point, I'd be happy to talk to you about it, So that's another possibility that you could take. So I guess I have a question. So there are a bunch of great strategies. We're supposed to report back because different groups are doing different ones. So I guess I'd love a volunteer from one of you to share back to the whole group what some of the strategies we came up with were. Who would like to do that?
I like Anna's answer. Anna, why don't you help us?
Okay, so Tracy's volunteering Anna. Anna, will you be willing to kind of report back as somebody who kind of merges all the strategies together?
Sure, definitely.
Okay, fantastic. Good. Are these sorts of violations that you've often seen, either for yourself as you're applying for jobs or for folks you work with? Are people often still getting the question?
For me, my individuals that they go through the whole process, but they kind of like what Katie was saying, they get ghosted at the end. They don't reply back. They don't call them back. They don't say anything. It just stays like, and when they call back to ask like, oh, well, I was just checking back to see if everything went okay, they still won't return the call. Oh, we're still waiting type of thing. And they don't give them a straight answer, yes or no.
And this is so they get the conditional offer?
No, they don't even get, well, yeah, they get the conditional offer.
I see.
But then that's it. Correct.
I see. Yeah. We haven't filed complaints in that kind of case, but that strikes me that can't be legal, right?
That's what I would think too. You need to know where they stand.
Yeah.
If they
right?
went with another candidate.
Exactly. Like it's fine for like a week or something, but you can't just ghost them forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a client who went through the entire process with Home Depot. he was hired. That's a like a temp employee, and
Yeah.
then a couple months after, then he was actually up for the entire position.
Mm.
He went through the process. They offered the position. They did the background check. They give him 5 days afterwards. But then after we sent back that letter, he sent back the letter where he's explaining what happened with the criminal record. Nothing happened afterwards. It was kind of like dry, the response that he got back from the company. Not so much like not like they actually made a good decision afterwards. It was just, okay, no, thank you. We're gonna like let you go. Which was, to me, I thought it was kind of awkward. He didn't want to pursue anything longer. He feel that he was afraid about repercussions. That's why he left it as it is.
Right, because he still was employed by them as a temp.
Yes, well, he was employed until the day he got the email back saying that they were not going to proceed with the permanent position. Yeah,
I see. Well, at that point, what has he got to lose, right? At that point, why not file a complaint? Because then they're letting him go, right?
Correct, though, and I did actually give you guys this information too as well, because I was on like, I went through this training before, and I was on like, you should try it. And one of the tools that I gave them to him as well was the toolkit as well, so he was able to prepare the letter that he got from the employer.
Yeah.
But he ended up finding someplace a different chapter, and that's the thing that's what's happening right now with the economy in this region, in an empire, is like they can find another job right away.
Right. Yeah. And so then, well, if he's still interested in filing a complaint, we got a number of years to do so we could do so. All right, I'm going to, I don't know who's in charge of bringing us back to the main group, but I think we're probably ready. So I'm going to go check in on them, and I think we'll come back to the main group in just a second, okay?
On your behalf.
Stacey, this is Carmen.
Should we come back?
Can you hear me?
Maybe just 1 more minute or 30 more seconds.
Okay, you got it. All right.
Yeah, Carmen, go ahead.
I came back. I can't hear you. Janet, you're on mute.
Sorry. I went to give I was like, Stacey, 1 minute warning. And so yeah. So everyone's coming back now. But thank you. And so Anna, you'll report back for us. Multiple minds always help. This is why this is really helpful, right? Like one person, you can't.
I completely forgot about the little clock thing that was going. Okay, well, we're back. We got everybody back. All right, we are going to debrief. We're going to come all back together for a debrief. And let me see, we had 2 different role plays going on. We had role play 1, the forklift operator one, and then we had role play 2, where you could, they both was forklift operator, but one, you were asked that question in real time in the interview. And then the second one, you were asked, about your, you was responded to a pre-adverse action notice. And so for role play 1, how did it go? Was our room leader? I know I had role play 1 in my room. No, I had role play 2. I had role play 2. So role play 1.
I was in rotate 1, and Miss Hayward is gonna she's gonna talk about it.
So yeah, so we had this first one with the forklift operator, where the forklift, well, during the interview process, the interviewer asked, you know, I'm going to run a background check on you, and is there anything that I have to worry about? And so first we were kind of, you know, going back and forth, like, okay, well, you can't, you know, well, you know, just kind of, well, let's talk about it when we get there, or let's, you know, and then we just decided, it's like, you know what, you can't even ask, it's not legal for you to ask this because of AB 100. And, you know, it's a new law, so it's against the law for you to even ask this question, right? But this kind of went into different questions, you know, and different scenarios, because like myself and a few other people that were in there, it's like, okay, so we work for nonprofits, we work in industry where we are working with people that have, you know, just gotten out and they're going through these circumstances right now. And Ms. Reed, you know, informed us that there's information and templates that we can actually have with us that we can give our clients so that they can have, you know, some of the tools for their toolbox to use for self-confidence. Also, there was a question that was brought up, and the question was, how long, if there's a complaint, if our people file complaints after, how long is it kept on file? Because what if there's somebody that goes in for an interview and an employer asks this question and then they make a complaint? How long is it kept on file? Because what if it happens, you know, years down the road, and then it happens again, and then that person complains? How long is it kept on file so that, you know, they can have something built up against them as an employer?
So when you say how long is it kept on file, I'm taking that to mean how long is it in the background check? Could it show
how long is the complaint? So say I'm the person that's being interviewed, and this person asked this question and I file a complaint. And then years down the road, somebody else comes in to be interviewed and then they file a complaint. We wanted to know how long were the complaints kept on file so that they could, you know, actually do something with this employer.
Yeah, so the Department of Fair Employment and Housing is the agency that sort of keeps and receives the complaints. They have, like, you know, years and years, like more than 10 years of complaints on file somewhere, right? Where in some cloud. So they keep it all together. And they have some reports even online, right, where you can sort of see, you won't see like they filed a complaint against this specific employer, but you'll see the general trends in the complaints. So they'll have that information for forever. Now, whether they actually like go and pull it and try to see like, oh, there have been 10 complaints against this one company, that's a different question, right? And sometimes they'll be assigned to different investigators, so you won't actually know, they won't actually know. But you can also ask for that information, or ask the investigator at the agency to ask that question as part of the process, right? You can say, is this the only person this has happened to? Can you ask that? And they can decide whether or not to ask it. But that's something that is part of the process. The agency has this power, right? This investigatory power to ask the company questions about their practices.
Awesome, thank you.
That was a really good question, though. That was a really good question. And Stacy mentioned that on our behalf on filing, we get 3 years now to file. Okay.
For my group, Anna was going to report back. So go ahead, Anna.
Thank you. So when we were in our group, we came up with a few different ways to answer. I think we all agreed that there's not a really easy way as someone who's looking for employment to answer this question, even though we know that technically, or it is against the law for them to answer, right? We know it's happening to us at that moment. So it is a difficult conversation to have. I think what we agreed on at the end was going about it by saying, hey, you know, California passed a law in 2018 called the California Fair Chance Act, which prohibits us from having this conversation at this point. Now, if you do offer me a position, and if you happen to find something, I am willing and ready to discuss that with you and then continue our conversation about why I would be the best employee for this position. But I think that's where we kind of all agreed. Again, I think we all said that it is a difficult conversation to have. So just be ready to answer it in that way if that's what happens to you. So I don't know if anybody from my group wants to add anything, but I think that's what I gathered from that.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and so, you know, you guys, you know, you guys are right, you know, be truthful. One of the main things is there's no right way to answer that question, you know. And when I'm, you know, mentoring somebody or giving encouragement, I'm going to be truthful, but also know your rights. And then another one that I really like to add is, you know, understanding what type of job that is and how bad you want that job will also influence how you answer it. And right here, and this is again a part of the toolkit. This is all a part of the toolkit, but there are some examples on here, you know, and one of the examples that Anna shared is definitely on here, you know, letting them know like, hey, I think there's a law, you know, about this, you know, again, everybody might not be at that stage and that confident to say that in no interview. Let's be realistic. You know what I'm saying? But what you can refer to is letting them know. What I can tell you is that there's nothing in my past that will keep me from doing this job well. And then again, you know, make sure you read the question carefully. Another thing I think, because I know I've overlooked this myself. What are they really asking you? Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Have you been convicted of a crime in the last 7 years? So, you know, we just want to point out that read the question carefully. Again, be truthful, know your rights. You know, think about your conviction history. Remember, you have options. And don't forget, there's legal action to take. Okay, role play 2. How we doing on time? We doing okay on time? I had role play 2. What about our other role play 2 group? Because we didn't even pick a report back person.
So. I had it, and we also didn't pick a report back person, but I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer.
Same on minds. Anybody want to volunteer?
I can volunteer. It's just that I think my internet connection is a little unstable, but what we had discussed was that we would reply to the employer in writing and just prove that, you know, the narcotics part, it's not an issue with regards to my ability to drive a forklift. And if any Narcotics Anonymous courses were taken, provide a certificate of completion. And any other rehabilitative or volunteer work that has been occurred, provide that. As far as just saying, you know, hey, it's not an issue, I still qualify, and do so within 5 days.
Thank you, Josie. Josie also stepped up and took the first stab at, you know, as our volunteer. And then let me see, we have somebody else. I don't know if she wanted to add something.
It was Christy.
I seen Esperanza had unmuted yourself. Did you want to share?
Yes. I'm Esperanza Paulina from the Department of Rehab.
Oh, sorry if I mispronounced your name. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I really don't get bothered by the name, to be honest with you. So in regards to this population, I work with this population for 20 years. It's a wonderful population to work with. I always tell them to keep it short and simple, but be honest. So in regards to this question, I've told them just, you know, be honest, let them know that it's not an issue. It was, you know, history of drug abuse. I've completed a rehabilitation program for a year. I'm attaching the documents of the certificate of completion of forklift, completion of certificate of rehab certificate, and I'm providing character letters. I've always encouraged them, this is the opportunity for you to provide all your character letters, especially when they say, well, you know what, there's an issue, your background did come out as blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So keep it short, truthful, and simple. Just because you get a denial doesn't mean that all is gone. No, on the contrary, I've actually dropped some of my parolees on denial letters, especially with the ore refinery.
That's a good industry too. And again, we just want to land on, that template, when responding to the questions. Don't forget the template. The template is really good. I wish I had this when I was out there looking, discuss the conviction, take responsibility, mitigating factors, what it taught me. I'm going to keep that at a real short paragraph. No, I was done. I was just going to say, just go, and then more resources. Is this you or is this me? Want me to do this one?
You can do it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So resources. So we talked about the DFEH. That's the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing. That's the state agency, that takes that, like Stacey showed, you would file the complaints and take the complaints, and they have investigators and things like that. That's the state agency, and they're on our side. We have done some presentations with some of those folks. They're here to support. I know it may not seem like it, you may not get answers all that fast and stuff, but there are, again, I'm not here to advocate for them, but they're on our side. They're working. They're doing the best they can. The IE Fair Chance Coalition. We love Jen and them. They will definitely hook you up and steer you in the right direction. You want to be going towards the appropriate resources that you can use for jobs, and also other resources that help you process some of these complaints. And also the coalition, I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but they help people, file complaints and stuff too. Time for Change Foundation. I love these folks. These my people over here, grassroots led. You know what I'm saying? Time for Change Foundation is a great resource. They help folks with housing, all kind of stuff. They will steer you in the right direction for employment. You feeling discouraged, you need to be pointed in the right direction for that expungement clinic. Definitely Time for Change. Root and Rebound. Hey, we can go on and on and on about the work Root and Rebound do, right? They're a statewide organization. They have operations set up in even some of our remote locations. So Root and Rebound does a lot of work. They operate helplines, hotlines, definitely big on the expungement clinics. They have attorneys over there. So you definitely want to be reaching out to Root and Rebound. And then, yes, we did save the best for last. Okay, legal aid at work. That is me and Stacey over here, okay? You know what? I love legal aid at work. I am excited about being on board over here. We do a lot of work with legal aid at work. You definitely want to reach out to us. We'll help give you advice. We do limited representation. We'll help you figure out, do you got a claim? And let's say if they did follow the law, we'll help you see that, yes, unfortunately, they followed the law. They followed the process. We'll go ahead, put in a complaint, and we'll get you moving on to a better job anyway. So definitely. And additional resources in our bag is going to be the toolkit. Okay, we've been talking a lot about the toolkit today. This is something that Stacey and Syra helped put together. I contributed a little bit, but really, you guys, this was Stacey and them. They were serious. They really wanted this to get done, and I really love how it came out. The toolkit is hands-on, it's tangible, it's real life, and it has really good advice and options that you can do now. Like, it gives you those practice questions. It tells you how to, like, if all you've had was prison jobs the last 10 years, it tells you how to talk about that stuff on a resume. I really like the toolkit. Sorry for dragging it. Go ahead, Stacey. And this is us, again, legal aid at work. These are our worker rights clinics. So we are a statewide organization. We do statewide work. We're based in San Francisco, but we do statewide work. And this is a really good way that we do some of our statewide work. We do partnerships with some worker rights clinics. Down in LA, I came down earlier this year. We partnered with them doing a workers' rights clinic at the Los Angeles Black Workers Center, and we want to have this is how we make sure we have access to, the populations that we want to serve. It's one of the major ways. So, check us out online. This is online. Find a number in your area. And then you see the best number now because of COVID-19. Don't be discouraged because it's a 415 number. Again, we do operate statewide. And that is it. We are on time with 4 minutes left for Q&A. Or Stacy and Jen or Sarita, add any closing remarks or anything.
I just want to give a shout out we can send the PowerPoint out afterwards. And also I wanted to share that you can download the different resources, including the toolkit and the one-page Know Your Rights fact sheet on our website, which I just sent out. And you can also order physical copies of the toolkit, which we're currently getting printed. So it'll be a little bit before you actually get them, but you can order them. There's like a form on there to order physical copies if you want to have some in your office, or you want one for yourself.
The last thing I would just say is anyone who is in the Inland Empire who wants to join IE Fair Chance Coalition, you are always welcome. We have a super fluid coalition. We meet every Thursday morning at 9. Just email us and we'll add you to our list and you can join us when you want. And we will send out all the links to the video and everything once it's all kind of up online.
And I'm also chatting evaluations, one for service providers and one for directly impacted folks that you can fill out to say, and you can check a box on there to say, I want to join the IE Fair Chance Coalition. And you can also check a box to say, I want a copy of the toolkit. And then you can give us feedback on how the presentation went, because we're constantly updating it to try to make it better and more responsive to what people actual questions are.
All righty.
We open it up for questions in the last 2 minutes.
Feel free, unmute yourself.
Maybe you did so good explaining everything. There are no questions.
I didn't have a question, but I really just want to thank you all so very much. I'm so excited. I'm literally emailing some of the students that I work with at RCC during this press